Hi, everybody. Time for another segment of this video series I'm going to make about my mixing process. And if you recall from last week, uh, we talked about just setting everything up. And the first two sections that are on this sheet here, basically going through and listening and figuring out what instruments you're dealing with, try to make them into groups, listen to the sections of the song, and create submix paths. So in Pro Tools, you can make colors to show your groups so you can visually see them. And then we got these faders, which are sort of subgroups, and the fader that controls the entire group. So in this particular song we're dealing with, it's called Purgatorio, just to remind you. And we have basically 5 groups. Percussion and the bass, it's over here. The piano, the horns, the voices, and the strings. So we've got all that set up with submixes and all that. So now we got to figure out the sections of the song and which instruments go where during each section. And the landscape levels are something we talked about in the intro class, and the 3 landscape levels are basically foundation, foreground, and ambient. So the foreground meaning the things that are right in your face, like the vocals. Foreground, or the foundation is the actual meat and potatoes of the song, the stuff that sort of stays in an area for most of the time, and it just creates the fullness of the song, and that's what we call the foundation. Is typically the rhythm section, bass and drums, stuff like that. And then the ambient things might be, in this case, strings, possibly horns at times in this tune. So in different sections of the song, we're going to have different things going to different levels. Now, the dynamics of the song are pretty much strong the whole time in any of these kind of songs, but we still have a sort of a dynamic shape. So right here we have letter 3A, and we're going to create a dynamic picture of the whole song. We'll get into that in a second, but basically we're going to fill out this graph, not all today, but we'll sort of show you what I'm talking about. You have the instrument groups here, and then the sections of the song. And what are we, I sort of filled in the first one. Percussion and bass is the foundation most of the time, but a couple of times it gets into the foreground. We have a drum solo, and then the end of the tune is very drum oriented. So it's mostly just the drums, not the bass, but it jumps into the foreground a little bit. And then, at the very beginning of the song, the piano is in the foreground. You'll hear that. So let's just listen to the song now, and you can get a little taste of it. We'll try to go through each section, and I'll speak about it. Look at the edit window here, and right on this bar we have the sections laid out. So it starts out with this intro where the piano takes over. So in the V1 is verse 1, and the voice comes in. I don't have it mixed now, but that's going to be in our foreground. You can hear there's some strings and horns that are kind of going to be in the ambient level in this part. And we've got a flute that's sort of doubling the main voice part. You can hear that. And we're going to have to put that underneath the voice. But it is there to support it. Now we have the first hook, like what I call the vocal hook. And then you just heard the instrumental hook, and now we have what they call the choro, or the chorus part, multiple voices. And then you can hear the flute is kind of revving up to take a solo here. The next section is the flute solo. Very repetitive, it kind of keeps going. The horns pop in about halfway through. And they kind of compete with the flute for a little bit. Now you got this little break. And the hook happens again, the instrumental hook. Now we actually have a trumpet solo and then a saxophone solo. Yeah, saxophone solo. So those two things kind of take over the foreground in this section. The rest of it's really just grooving along. Now a new section happens with a 6/8 feel. The piano kind of takes over here, but we don't want it to pop out too much more. It's basically just a foundation groove. And then the horns pop in. Little interesting arrangement. You can hear a few more percussion things are happening. Now, drum solo. And in this part you can hear there's a little bit of little string pops. Third verse. You might call this the fourth verse, but second half of the third verse, whatever. So we got the vocal hook there, sort of ramps up the intensity. And now the big finish, last instrumental hook. And it's sort of extended with a key change. Right there. And then the big ending where the drums kind of take over again. That's the tune. That is it. And definitely got a lot going on with the arrangement. So what I'm talking about is you go through, and on this level, you know, you map out all your sections, and then what is going to be what of the landscape level. So the, you know, in the intro, the horns are probably going to be in the foreground. The voices don't come in, and the strings probably add to the foundation. I'll say that in the first section. So this is just my idea about how to deal with it. Voices are not in yet, that kind of thing. So you can go through the whole tune like that, and I'll do that for next time. Kind of map out how I mix it, and I'll actually try to do a little better of an actual mix for next time. So back to our sheet here, Mixing Process 101. The next thing I'm going to talk about really quickly is you got to think about the overall dynamic picture of the song. And we just heard the song, so which sections of the song really do we want to bring out more? And in this song, of course, it's pretty much, the dynamic range is not wide. It's just pretty much a strong tune. But I made a little map of my dynamics, and basically right here is your different sections of the song, and then here is sort of the up and down intensity level. But again, like I said, it's very subtle dynamic changes. Mostly the song is just a powerful song. It doesn't really have any real quiet parts, but it's just subtle. So like I call the verse 1 and 2 here at the beginning, come down a little bit. The hook right here pops back up to the intro level, and then the instrumental hook, the ba 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 ba, to me is the main part to make intense. Then it sort of pops down into the choro and the solos. That little hook comes back between solos, and then the drum solo. Of course, the drum solo actually starts out kind of quiet, but this is sort of like the level that it reaches, which is the top level. Then it just suddenly comes down, like there's a pause, and it comes down for the last verse. The vocal hook comes back, and then the big finish pops back up to the strongest. So that's how I'm going to try to basically shape the song. I haven't done it yet, but like I said, I'll do it and show it to you in the third part of the video. Let's go back to Pro Tools really quick and talk about one last thing, and that is the first thing you do, that I do, and people do it different ways, but is to actually take each of these groups and mix within the group, and then put the groups together. So what we're going to talk about here is, what we're going to do is actually mute all the other groups. Just listen to this first group for a second. I guess we'll listen to the piano too, but we'll mute the horns, we'll mute the voice, and we'll mute the strings. And we'll deal with this set of two groups at the beginning for a second. And as you can see, I've got EQ plugins on all these. But basically what you're looking at on the screen is what we're going to be listening to right off the bat. Got to keep this little graph in mind. And here we have it. Mix within each group, then put the groups together. So we won't put the groups together today. But what we will do is listen to these first couple groups and just think about the balance within this group, these two groups, which is the percussion, bass, and then the piano. So we will see if I can find my other window here. Find the top of this tune. Turn it up just a little bit. So I've pretty much got that sounding the way I basically wanted to, but you can see there's timbales, all these different percussion tracks, bongos, congas, shakiras, and cowbells, güiro, maracas, and then you got the bass, which I just got cranked up there. And of course we have other ways to make that bass pop out, but what we're looking for is just a balance between those those instruments, and then the pianos here, and of course having these pans coming into play really helps to show different things. So let's just listen to it one more time. So let's mute a few of these percussion tracks. There we just got no percussion. So with the bass, we can bring that out by, instead of just cranking it up, which I've got it pretty cranked up right now, we can try to bring it up by, going to roll off some of the bass frequencies and get up some of these frequencies in the middle, and then push the output a little bit. Yeah, so I'm finding those frequencies that are making it come pop out. Okay. Let's start getting some percussion in here. Don't want to push it too far up above the zero, but so that's just a little example of, just experimenting within a group or two groups. In this case, the percussion bass is one group, and then the piano kind of got it on its own. Kind of going back and forth between, listening to just segments of the group and then putting it together with the piano and focusing on the bass, because to me that was the thing that got recorded on this track that's not quite jumping out. So we'll try some more things with it, with some compressors and stuff along the way. But we got a little concern about the bass just having a voice without overbearing. We don't want to have too much in the low end to sort of wipe everything out. So I rolled off the low end there on the EQ, and you just gently do that with the bass, and then you can really push it without it like sucking up everything in that bass register. So basically, that's kind of what we did in this section. So for next time, I will actually do a little better, closer mix and fill in all that sheet about the different sections, what's in the foreground and the foundation and all that, and try to demonstrate that. But try doing that with your mixes and your tunes this week, and we'll catch up with you soon.